All right, so I had some questions about what kind of tubes I end up using when I switched out the tubes and the vacuum tubes or valves on the Klark Teknik EQP-KT Equalizer. That was a very important part of customizing the sound. I do think the stock tubes sound pretty good, but if you replace out the tubes, it will sound more open. It will have a little bit more of a unique color and character to it. So the ones that I used are for the tubes. I used the standard Gold Lion tubes. These can be a little bit tricky. They have different types of Gold Lion tubes. I believe they have ones made in different countries. But with these were pretty easy to install. And with these, they were really easy to take out. Just open up the unit. You'll see the tubes right there. There are only a few screws, I believe, to open up the unit. And they just pulled right out and were super easy to just press it right back in and you're done. That part was simple. However, when I got to the vacuum tubes, this part was harder to switch out. So I'll show you what they look like. So the vacuum tubes look like this. These are the stock versions, but I used the JJ electronic for the vacuum tubes. These were very difficult to remove, so you do have to take your time so you don't accidentally break the stock tubes. What I did is I used a soft cloth and I just kind of went back and forth, and it took about 10 minutes just to get one out, maybe up to 30 minutes. They wouldn't just come right out. You actually have to slowly nudge it out. And overall, I think to replace the tubes, it took about 30 minutes. It might have taken up to an hour. I cannot remember if it was 30 minutes for one unit and 30 minutes for the other. So to be on the safe side, plan about an hour to remove the tubes. That way you don't damage anything. But overall, it was super simple. Outside of the tubes being difficult to get out, it was really, really easy. Once the tubes were out, it was super easy to press the tubes back in and it sounded better. So I definitely got more clarity, a more open sound, a little bit more dimension, better color, a little bit more character, and the compression was a little bit different with how the EQ hit. So overall, I like the sound. Was it worth the upgrade? I believe so. I don't think the difference is huge. I do think if I would have invested more into different tubes, the difference would be a lot more dramatic. However, because the unit is such a low price unit, I didn't want to go through and spend too much on that. If you have analog or outboard gear, one of the coolest parts is sort of customizing things yourself. There are people that do modifications on gear, and it's amazing how you can get a $200 piece of gear to sound like a multi-$1,000 piece of gear just by putting a few upgrades and tweaks, such as changing out the power supply, the transformer, and I don't do all of that stuff, but there are people that do it for a really low price. So if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and check out my other videos on mixing, mastering, music production, original music, and more. And until next time, bye-bye.